Hi everyone, my name is Nuno Fonseca and it's a pleasure to be here to show you our recent product called Space Controller. When it comes to panning, especially if you are working with stereo, knobs are perfectly okay, you are left and right and a knob do all the job. But when you start moving to surround or even 3D audio, even if you use joysticks or knobs or touch screens or even the mouse, what happened is that all of these situations felt a little awkward. It doesn't uh, interact with you very well. So at Sound Particles, we thought, okay, what can we do to make everything panning in 3D, in immersive, surround, all of those things to be better? And we came up with a solution that's exactly what we have implemented in Space Controller. And the solution is to use your phone. So imagine you having your phone and simply pointing where you want the sound to come from, also almost like a laser pointer. So that's exactly what we have here with Space Controller. So Space Controller is a plugin and an app for your mobile devices. And essentially what we do is, as you can see, simply moving the phone around allow you to say where you want things to be panned. So much more intuitive. You simply want, okay, you want a sound coming from there. Okay, simply point the device over there and then on the center and then the left and then move around or above you. So it's quite easy to move. It's give you precision. It's very intuitive and quite important. It's a lot of fun having something like this, and especially if you have a Dolby Atmos or something like that, immersive studio. It's a lot of fun to play within. So let's get to know a little more about Space Controller. So let's start with the app. So this is an app that runs in iOS or Android devices. Essentially, you have this big button that you press when you want to start sending information. You even can use this for automation. So imagine that you have your track on touch mode, which means that when you play the button, that's when you start writing automation. So you have this big button when you want to transmit things around. If you stop it, it will be stopped. Okay, you press again, and then you are able to control the position of the sound as you want. Also, there is here a button that is called Set Front, and the idea is for you to simply say where is your reference, where is your center channel. So you simply point to your center channel, press Set Front, and then from that moment on, the device will automatically know, okay, this is the center channel, so everything else I know now how to control the sound. And then also, quite important, if you notice there is some 4 channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and essentially these are transmitting channels, which allows you, for instance, to have one single mobile device and controlling on channel 1. Imagine that I have some voice. On channel 2, I have a plugin listening on channel 2 for the guitar. So I'm able to do this for voice, and then channel 2 move to guitar, and so on. Or even, and that's even more interesting, if you want, you can even use two phones, and one for the left channel and another one for the right channel, and simply move around both devices and panning 2 sounds at the same time if you really want. Back into the plugin, of course, we have this app. The app uses Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to connect to the plugin. If you are on a home setup or a small studio, Bluetooth, it's the perfect solution for you. As long as you have the app running, the plugin automatically detects the app and you don't need any kind of configuration. But for instance, if you are on the dubbing stage where the computers could be on a completely different room, very far away, and Bluetooth may not have the range for that. So we can also use Wi-Fi to connect to the devices and reach the computer. And we're going to see later on how to do all of that. Then we have the plugin. It's a standard plugin, AX, VST, audio units. You place the plugin on the track that you want to control the panning. As you can see, when you open the plugin, there is 2 main modes, cube and sphere. So if you are working in VR, 360, or installations, and or you simply prefer this kind of spherical component where you only have azimuth and then elevation, okay, sphere mode is the perfect mode for you. If you come from the film industry and you are more used to use a kind of cube approach with X, Y, Z, which means left, right, front, back, up, down, you can use this in cube mode. Of course, we have this top view, but if you want, you can also change this for a perspective, different rear view with everything moving around. So you can do all of those things over there. Also, quite important in terms of the operations, that are essentially four different operation modes. One of them it's we called mono mode, and with mono it doesn't matter how many inputs do you have in your plugin. The plugin will simply mix everything, do a mix, a mono mix of everything, all the inputs channels, and place a single sound source over here that you see with the M letter means mono. So you are simply having this mono sound around. It doesn't matter if his input is stereo or 5.1 or whatever, everything is mixed on a single one. Then we have channel mode, and with channel mode we have all inputs completely independent. So in this case it's a stereo track, so you get the left over here. If I want, I can control the right on channel 2. So you can do all of those things completely independently, one from each other. There is also a rotation mode, and the idea of the rotation is to have a sound field that simply rotate the entire sound field. So essentially you are moving everything around. So let's see this in sphere, that is even easier to understand. So as you can see, I have here the sound field and I'm rotating something. In this case it's stereo, but for instance, imagine that I want to do something in surround. Let me change this, the zoom. So imagine that I'm doing surround, so I'm rotating the entire sound field, and this could be interesting, especially if you have some recording of a sound field, but then the camera starts to move around and you want to rotate the entire sound field around you. And also there is a symmetrical mode, and the idea is to have left and right and all the remaining channels acting as a symmetrical way. Of course, if you are inputting something in 5.1, you can do something like this, so you get all of those channels here, and then you start to open up and they are working as symmetrical. And this could be interesting for some sound fields that you may want to create some interesting things around. Or even, let's return back to the stereo, okay? Or a simply symmetrical with left and right doing symmetrical things. You're controlling one of them, and then the other acts like the traditional would do. More things regarding the app. As you can see, of course, we have here the zoom. Sometimes you want a smaller screen, sometimes you want a larger screen, depending on how you have the monitors and all of these things. Of course, you can have presets. Imagine that you like some crazy pannings and you want to use this in presets. I didn't mention, but although the software is created to work with this app, even without the app, you can still use this as a regular 3D panner. Imagine that you want to pan things in binaural or ambisonics or whatever, so you can still be able to do all of those things. Also, quite important, there is the dice over here that simply starts doing random positions over here. If you are one of those guys that like those happy accidents where things, okay, let me just roll the dice and see some crazy things, sometimes without thinking too much about it and simply trying random things, you end up having good results. So you get this dice over here to simply change different positions. Also, at some point, if you release a new update, there will be here something called update, just to let you know that, okay, that is a new update available, so you can get to know that there is something new available. Also, in here we have the meters, we have the input and the output meters. You can see the meters not only from the output, but also what you are receiving from other plugins or from the tracks. You can even select what kinds of inputs do you want. for instance, imagine that you are in stereo, but you say, okay, I want stereo, but I don't want regular stereo. I want binaural, or I want something slightly different. Of course, we have this main gain to control the main gain, the volume of the entire things. Over here, we're going to have here the setups. Okay, so if you are using Wi-Fi, it's only a matter of pressing this button over here, and then using your remote devices, just go to the settings, scan QR code, and simply point the camera of the phone over here, and this will give you all the information. Those things like IP addresses and ports and all of those configurations that will be automatically given to your app. In here, you can also control which transmitting channel do you want this plugin to be listening to things. Imagine that you say, no, I don't want this to be listening to any app. Or you could say, no, I have this on channel 1, but I have another plugin on channel 2. So you can do all of those things. Also, in some situations, you may have the two channels, because you could say, okay, I want to control the left in one device and the right with another device, and you simply use both at the same time. And you're going to be having some lights here just to let you know that you have connection by Bluetooth or for Wi-Fi or something like that. Over here, you're going to have the traditional control. So if you are working with the sphere mode, it's going to have azimuth and elevation. And of course, you can simply press to move to the other channel, or simply come here and change channels. If you are working with cube, it's the same thing, but now with X, Y, Z. And what happens is that when someone are creating plugins like we do, sometimes it's difficult for us to make some decisions, because, okay, should we do a plugin and get all the possible parameters that we want on the plugin, or should we constrain ourselves and no, let's put only a few knobs, only with those kinds of features that pretty much everyone is using, and not thinking about the rare user or the rare power user that wants something more complicated. So for us, what we decided was to add this new switch called Advanced Options. So by default, you get these settings that you see, but if I come here and I activate these Advanced Options, then you get extra parameters if you want to control crazy things. One of the things that you are going to notice is that below the meters now you have the chance to mute some inputs and mute some outputs. So imagine that I'm working something over here, but you say, no, I just want to use the left channel and pan the left channel. I don't want the right channel to be even considered. Or if I'm on mono mode, I don't want the right channel to contribute to that mono mix. Or eventually in the output, imagine that I'm panning things around, but no, now I don't want to use height information. So let's make sure that I'm going to mute the above the height channels, so the speakers will only work on the horizontal plane. So it can help you doing some things that you want. Also, at the same time, now you're going to have here some lock parameters, which means that, for instance, imagine that, okay, you say, no, I want to work on that horizontal plane, but without muting the above thing. So you could say, no, let's lock the height. Imagine that to say, okay, I want the height to be locked over here, or locked at horizontal plane. And essentially what happens is that now I move everything around and the height is completely locked. So you can lock some parameters and make sure that you are not going crazy and exploring all of those things. At the same time, there is this size parameter over here. If you want to, instead of using pinpoint sound sources, if you want the sound sources to cover much more speakers, if they are available. You can control also the gain of that input, because imagine that you want, yes, I want to do this, and I want to rotate the sound field, but now I need the surround channels, the input surround channels to be slightly higher to make sure that during the rotation everything is smooth. So you can control the gain of the left channel, of the right, or whatever you want. Also, over here there are several options. One of them is this snap, and the idea of the snap is simply to make sure that you are simply snapping the channel to a speaker to make sure that this isn't never going in between speakers. This could be interesting. Another choice is that when you are working, especially in movies, you are using the horizontal plane and above the horizontal plane. So we usually don't use below the horizontal plane because we don't have any speakers over there, for instance, in Dolby Atmos and other formats. Nevertheless, imagine if you are working with ambisonics or if you are working with things like 22.2, where actually you can have sound below the horizontal plane. Essentially, this allows you to tell, okay, do you want to explore also below the horizontal plane, or do you want to make sure that it's only horizontal and above? So this allows you, for instance, by default in the sphere mode, we consider the full height, even negative value. So I can do this and be above you, front, and then even point to the ground if I want. Okay, so I can do all of these, and by default the cube have this disabled, but you can enable, especially with 22.2 and the formats, just like that. And finally, there is this auto height, especially if you are using the mouse to pan things around to make sure that as you move to the center, it starts to automatically automate and elevate everything for you. Besides all of these, there is also a lot of information here with tooltips that give you information about what that parameter does, a very brief explanation. But if you need more information, what you can do is simply come here, open this help panel, and then we're going to have things, links like going to our website, watching tutorials, to have access to the manual, request support. And this request support is interesting because it's going to give you, takes you to a web form on a web page that the plugin automatically on the link, when it jumps there, sends some information like your operating system, the version of your plugin. And this is quite helpful when you're contacting support to know for people that is on our side answering to you and trying to help you to better understand, okay, this is the Windows version, this is this version of the plugin, okay, this probably could be a bug that now the newer version is now updated. So it helps a lot on our side, helping us, helping you, and then also like a forum or share for updates. So in terms of the space controller will be available as two different products. There will be a standard version and the studio version. The standard version is a stripped down version only with Bluetooth, because mainly for home studios, Bluetooth is more than enough. And also in terms of format, supports stereo, binaural, first order ambisonics, and up to 5.1 surround systems. And then we're going to have the studio edition that is going to have, besides Bluetooth, also Wi-Fi, especially for having computers in different rooms or faraway rooms or something like that. And also, of course, the studio version gives you all the crazy immersive formats that you want to do, like 6th order ambisonics, 22.2, 7.1.2, 7.1, and many other things. So the standard version will be available. We're going to release it, everything with 20% discount as a release discount for everyone. So the standard version will be released at $79, and then the studio edition is going to be released at $320. And for us, don't hesitate to send us your comments. Tell us about what do you like on the app, what do you think it could be interesting, features that you think it could be interesting to add in the future. If there is anything that we could improve the software, great. Even if you have the ideas for new plugins and new things that you want, let us know. We really love to get feedback from all the users. And we have trial versions in our website, so you can try the software for 30 days, both the standard or the studio version. And let me tell you, it's a lot of fun to be able to have all of this and have things moving around and be able to use this freedom in terms of movement and panning things. It's quite fantastic, instead of being limited to the traditional joysticks and all of those things. So having a phone, you simply press point where you want the sound, and the sound will come from that direction. Also important, if you have a studio and you want a dedicated device to be used with space controller, you don't want your phone or something else, you can even use iPod touches to use this. So iPod touches is almost like a stripped down version of a phone without the ability to make calls, and the space controller works perfectly fine with iPod touches, so that could be also a solution for you, and have fun. So once again, thank you for joining me in this video, and let us know how can we help you. Bye.